Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 90 of Cognitive. Yay! Well, first thing I'm going to tell you is so far my husband has not needed the eye surgery. As I record this, it is Sunday, August 7th at 3:08 p.m., and the big day was this past Friday where the doctor was sure he was going to do surgery. We got there, got all ready. The doctor looked at his eye and said, wow, it really improved overnight. So no surgery so far. That's the big news. Meanwhile, you can respond to this podcast either at our blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. Just so you know. So if you'd like to send your good wishes, I appreciate it. I also want to thank all the people who have sent good wishes so far, including people on my Instagram page. I really, really appreciate it. In the meanwhile, warm thanks go to Lisa for a very generous coffee. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. And I know there were people who were reaching out to help defray the cost of Queenie's transport who sent me coffees as well. And a lot of people were saying they wanted to help. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. That was incredibly generous. You should know, too, with all the current excitement around my husband's eyes so far, it's only cost us $15 for the medical treatment. So it's not the worst situation in that respect that you could think would happen. Anyway, warm thanks. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Chris H. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, all the people who have been sending their kind donations. And Queenie, of course, recognizes that this is really about her, and she sends love to her many admirers. And meanwhile, thank you for everyone who is sending warm wishes for my husband's recovery and for me to keep on trucking here. COVID, you know the drill. Please just get your shots. Sure, Joe Biden got over it in 5 days. How is that possible? Vaccinated and probably, super duper medical treatment, which gives me a lot of hope. Really get your COVID stuff done, okay? It's a little late in the game to be carrying on about it's not real or you don't believe in the vaccines and all that stuff. I think over 100 million of us now have had the vaccines. So I think we can pretty much conclude this experiment is finished and we're all doing great. Get your kids their shots, and you can find the links for your electronic record in California and also for the free COVID test from the government in my show notes. At a moment like this, I know what you're really thinking is, but Gemma, what's on your hooks and needles? Well, in the midst of all this, I did finish the Sunnybank Love Scarf, which I think I called for Love of Sunnybank in my actual Ravelry notes. At any rate, this was a prototype. I wanted to put the hearts in intarsia on the scarf on at least one side and a Kali on the other. I did find a Kali chart, and if you follow the links in the show notes, you can see that whole story. It's actually a poncho. I think it's just called Kali Poncho or Rough Kali Poncho, but it's in the show notes and you can find it, and it's a very good chart. I duplicate stitched this. I did not go for intarsia. I did not try to pass it off as Fair Isle either because way crazy floats if I'd done it. So it's duplicate stitch. As always with duplicate stitch, looks better at a distance, but you can see the picture of it up close. The white came out a little fuzzier. If I could do it over, yeah, I was using my hands and not using a hoop, and a hoop would have made this a lot more regular. But I was kind of afraid of the effect of a hoop on this yarn because I think the yarn would have been too thick for any embroidery hoop I know of. But at any rate, I had a good time with this, and it's a pretty good graph of a Kali, I gotta say. So you can see the finished chart. The interesting thing about this is this should be called the, wow, that took a lot more skills than I knew I had scarf, because it has intarsia, it has different weights of yarn in it, has different fibers. The hearts are in alpaca. The background is cashmere acrylic. The collie itself is in acrylic. Excuse me, no, the collie is in wool. It's Knit Picks. In fact, some old skeins I had left over when I was making the collie hats. This was a lot of fun. There is no way to stop this scarf, which is basically the Noro Love Scarf number 29, I think. There's no way to stop this thing from curling up. So it looks nice in the picture because I've carefully and tastefully arranged it. But if you wear this thing, it is going to curl up. I don't mind because I'm shipping it off to Sunnybank and they're going to auction it and they can deal with the problem. But I'm glad to have that finished. And I will be getting masking tape and sealing it up and sending it off tomorrow, I imagine. And that will be one to do off my list. But it was an interesting experience. And so there's duplicate stitch and intarsia in this scarf, as well as your basic seed stitch and good old-fashioned stockinette. In progress, the don't know yet. Okay, I have no idea how many blocks I have. I've been missing days as I've been running my husband back and forth to the eye surgeons. But I'm pretty sure I'm at least caught up. I may be 2 or 3 ahead. If I had stuck to 1 block per day, September 4th would be 250 blocks. What am I trying to get? I'm trying to get 361. It's going to be close. That would be 19 squared. So the next one down would be 18 squared. And I don't even know what that number is, but we will see how this all holds up. And also I may be pulling out some of those blocks to use as yarn to sew blocks together. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it nonetheless. It works great in doctor's offices. You know, I carry around the first block I made, which is my model block for size and shape. And then I keep my hook woven through that, so the hook doesn't go wandering loose in my bag. And then I just carry a skein of yarn that I've balled up with my yarn winder and put in a yarn sleeve. And that works really well to keep things under control in my purse or my bag. But at any rate, the don't know yet is progressing, and so this is August, so we are probably at about 220 blocks at this point, just guesstimating with September 4th as 250 blocks. So very, very exciting as we come down the home stretch. I've got a lot of yarn left for this baby. I cannot believe how much excess yarn I bought when I was making the temperature blanket last year. I do highly recommend the temperature blanket, and I do highly recommend this kind of project where you're just using up your random yarn to make blocks. Not much news elsewise, except I did start a new cardigan. I was looking at the leftover cashmere acrylic that I used for the scarf for Love of Sunnybank, and just said, well, I want to empty this box, and it's got a bunch of the yarn for the don't know yet, but then it's got a bunch of these yarns as well. And I thought, you know what I could use right now is a really nice lightweight cardigan. And well, it came up, I think in my Instagram feed kind of randomly, and I said, that's a really good cardigan. It's really, really easy, and it's crocheted. This is called, again, Wrapped in Tiny Chains, which sounds just a little kinky, to be honest. But it's a really nice pattern. It's as easy as can be. This is a basic set-in sleeve minimalist cardigan pattern. This is as easy as it gets. So you're making a rectangle for the back and 2 thinner rectangles for the front, and then 2 rectangles for sleeves, really. The sleeves may be fitted. I'd have to go look at them. And then patch pockets. And you just sew it all together. So this is a great beginner cardigan, except it's not in one piece. But I'm kind of glad, because I feel like in the hot weather it would be like having a small animal in my lap as I tried to work on it. So this way I'll just sew the pieces together with a nice mattress stitch. Many points to Crow Jennifer, who made this up. That is C-R-O, Jennifer, all one word. This is a great pattern because the pattern itself is mind-blowingly clear with photos, with YouTube videos. Not only that, this particular pattern is really just chaining. So you chain, in my case, 110, and then you go into the first chain and you do what she calls an extended chain. And it essentially is you stick your hook through the chain, and then pull it out, and that's one with a loop on it. Yarn over, pull it through 2, yarn over, pull it through 3, yarn over, pull it through both loops on the hook, and you're done the stitch, and you move on to the next one. This is a really easy stitch to learn. It makes a pretty pattern. You get this nice rectangle, and that's all this is. You could take this pattern and use it with any type of crochet stitch and get a perfectly good cardigan out of it. Why this particular one? Well, it looks good, and it goes very fast, and it's very long so that each stitch is quite big. So it doesn't take a lot to make the biggest piece that I'm working on, which is the rectangular back. It's a very easy thing. I have to say too, if you are a knitter and you have never learned to crochet, I really feel bad for you, and I hope you decide to learn. It is such a useful thing to have around, particularly when you have scrap yarns and you want to use them up. Frankly, I can make a sleeveless shell in a weekend with crochet. Everything goes so much faster than knitting. Now, do I like the fabrics as much as I like knitted fabric? Well, it depends on what you're doing. For the most part, no. In my sweaters, I really like knitted stitches better than crochet, I will be honest. However, for light summer shells in cotton yarn, and I mean very light, if you use a worsted weight yarn for a cotton shell in crochet, it's going to be very heavy and going to drag. So if you want to make a really great crocheted shell, get a sport weight or a sock weight and experiment with smaller stitches, and it will go like lightning, and it's very, very pretty and very useful and very fast. I tend to use crochet when I need a finished object, and because of the way this week has gone, I need a finished object. The other great thing about crochet is edgings. So you can knit a perfectly nice sweater and then crochet a sort of shell neckline on it. And the great thing also is scraps. You take your leftover yarn and you just crochet blocks. And it doesn't matter what size yarn you're doing as long as the blocks are always the same size. So if you're a knitter, that's my phone and I'm going to answer it. But if you're a knitter and you haven't learned to crochet, I really hope you do, because it's incredibly useful for us. So the beloved just interrupted me by calling. He's down at the hotel and they're doing well on a very lazy Sunday afternoon. So let's see where I am. Oh yeah, I was exhorting you all to learn to crochet. You really should. Also, you want a quick crocheted cardigan. I have to say too, by the way, if you get a pattern like the Wrapped in Tiny Chains, and it uses pieces that you assemble to make your cardigan, well, also, you got to realize you're getting a free pattern, because you could use that to make a shrug. That when I look at the last shrug I did for the Kansas trip, which I leave you to look up in my notes because I'm just too tired. I think it was Easy Summer Shrug, and I made it the Easy Kansas Summer Shrug, something like that. Look, if you do a shrug, it's a rectangle. And so anytime you get a new crochet stitch pattern for like a cardi or another shrug, I mean, come on, man, this is not hard to change. If you want to make a shrug, you just make a big rectangle. So if you're making another project and the pattern is interesting, like this one is, with this unusual chain stitch type pattern, great. Remember, with your leftover yarn, you could have a shrug out of that. I'm just saying. Moving onward, I am not doing much of anything in terms of spinning, and I'm happy to say it. I did go through my hand spun last night and realized, yeah, there's a few possible Romule sweaters just sitting there looking back at me with their fleecy selves. So let's get on to a strategy. Well, actually, I thought this week I've been practicing all the strategies. I thought it's interesting because I'm always telling you, well, you have to practice your strategies. And this week, believe me, has really put that to the test. The major strategy in a crisis, and we're sort of in a crisis. I'm not the one having the crisis. I'm just sort of being pushed to support the family while my husband has the crisis, which seems to be resolving. But it has been giving me a lot of food for thought. And first thing in a crisis that you do is llama logic. That is, when something's going wrong, you need to stop and think, have I ever been through anything like this before? And then you identify what worked. And so, in other words, what I'm really saying here is two things. One is I'm saying you have to practice your strategies every day for moments like I'm going through this week. But also, in the middle of a crisis, you really want to revert to Lama logic. That is, only do what works. So the interesting thing with this whole thing with my husband has been how my husband has learned Lama logic. My husband has always been pretty much the worst person in a crisis I have ever known. And I learned this week, after 16 years of the beloved son, my husband has grown up, and I didn't realize how much. That he stayed calm through all of this. And when we've talked about it without the beloved son in the room, he says, well, I have learned that freaking out doesn't do any good. And he referred to my giving birth 16 years ago, that I didn't freak out in the midst of it. And he has been making plans. Like when I went away to come home last night, he called the local hospital, since he wasn't going to see his doctor for the first time in a week every day. He called the local hospital and said, look, this is going on. What would happen if I had a problem? Would you be able to handle it? They said, yes, you would come in. We would bring in a specialist, probably one of the guys he's been seeing all week. So without my knowing it, he actually made a plan B. I'm really proud of him. He said to me, well, you always have a plan B. I thought, wow, he's really, really developed, and I haven't been paying attention that much. I guess we've been more crisis-free than I want to admit. But the interesting thing was he was going through our mutual history and looking at how we have solved problems. And my husband's not a good planner, but by golly, he made a good plan. So I was impressed with that. And, I've been looking at it and thinking, all right, we had a bunch of problems this week. We have a new puppy who's not housebroken. We have an older dog who got some heat stress during the middle of the week. I came home one day and she was listless. And I realized, this is Captain, I realized she had heat stress. And so we had to go back and talk about how we're going to make this work. And one thing was, we realized I cannot spend the night down at the hotel with the boys. Somebody has to be up on the farm. We're having heat wave after heat wave, and the real risk is that Roxy and Jubilee will die in the heat. So yeah, I've been the one faithfully trudging around making sure everybody's got hay and water. So we've really had to use the strategies. And what strategies have we been using? Well, for me, it's been keep busy. When I came up to the house the first time, I was so unhappy at being here with no other human company that I started cleaning. So those of you who remember the ACCEPTS acronym, that's the A. I started doing activities to keep myself busy. I also focused on one thing at a time. That some days I would come home and there would be like 30 things I felt like I had to do, and I would just say, okay, make a list and walk through them one thing at a time. And one thing at a time, I think, has probably been my primary skill. Yes, I'm going to say it from the IMPROVE acronym, which is also one thing at a time, prayer. It's true. I just make sure I get in my licks with the beads every night, and I feel better. I feel like I'm not alone in this, and that's what Linehan, who developed DBT, would tell you, is the advantage of prayer is you feel like you are not alone. Helps if you're spiritual. I mean, if you don't believe in prayer, you're on your own. What I would say instead, call a friend. And that has helped too, that just being social, just reaching out and hearing my friends' voices has helped a lot. And Gigi, 20 points to you, because I've been getting great little texts from Gigi all week. And they're not about the problem. I don't think she realized too much what was going on until she heard last week's podcast. But just hearing Gigi, just having somebody occasionally send me a text has been a great reminder that I'm not alone in this. So again, that's, I guess, what I would put in prayer. The meaningfulness, there's been a lot of meaning in this for me. That it's been a way that we've been teaching our son that, he's a 16-year-old boy. He's not the center of the universe. We've been having a lot of talks about our family as a team. And we've been refocusing. We've been having family meeting after family meeting, impromptu in the car on the way back and forth to the doctors. But we've been focusing a lot on Dad's problem is the family's problem. That it's not just Dad who has a problem. That we all have this problem and we all work together to solve it. And so that's how I've been saying to my son, look, he said, well, I want to come up to the farm too. He said, well, we can't have you go up to the farm because he was going to he has a day program that just ended at the local community center. And we said, it's actually easier for the whole team if you go to your community center program, which he loved, so that was good. But we said, he was worried, and he said, well, I want to stay home. I'm worried about Dad. And I said, it's actually easier for everyone if we just take you to the community center, because then that takes care of you from about 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. We don't have to worry. We know you're with somebody. We know you're enjoying your summer. We know you're not just slogging back and forth to doctors like we've been doing all week. And he was okay about that. And my compensation for that was I took a lot of pictures of the dogs and sent him pictures and just kept saying, see, we're all okay and Dad's okay and all that. So that's been it. And so, the meaningfulness has been amazing, because my husband has really had a chance to exercise calm. He was just telling me about practicing calm and trying to practice the skills he's seen in previous crises, which were mine, health crises, and just using those skills. And he's been keeping our son on the normal and just letting life go on as it should. So it's been very interesting, because we're using a lot of Lama logic. We're using a lot of the distress tolerance skills. If I'm going to really go through that, I would say from accepts, I've been doing activities to keep busy, and he's been keeping our son busy, studying his summer class of Japanese, which miraculously they only fell a little behind on with all of this. In terms of contribute, okay, it's my job to keep the farm running and keep the home fires burning, although Minerva would like you to know she believes she's been helping with this by loving on me every morning. As soon as the sun comes up, she jumps on the bed and rubs my face and cuddles with me. So we've been keeping the home fires burning. Captain has been helping by babysitting the puppy. They are good buddies now. So that was the contribute, that while my husband goes through this, I've been the taxi. He's not really able to drive, and I've been hauling back and forth to the farm and keeping that all going. Compare. Well, this is personal. This could be worse. It could be my eyes. He's getting through stuff. I mean, I swear it's like they're tattooing his eyeball. I'm not going to go into the details. I don't want people fainting or getting vicarious PTSD. But he's had quite the week of it. So every time I think about this, I think, for the first time in my life, except for my father's death, it's not me, it's someone else. And wow. So I'm happy to do that. What else? Well, we've been separating emotion, like just saying, okay, when we get scared, we just sort of comfort each other, and we don't solve problems when we're emotional. We just sit down and we handle it. We sit quietly, we get something to eat, we hold hands, we talk it out. So we've been getting through that. That's the E of accept, separate your emotion from the problem and manage your emotion. And wow, thought stopping. We've been doing a lot of the thought stopping. That essentially every time one of us goes into a blue place, we call the other one, or we try and stop it on our own. Sensory, not too much, I have to say. I think sensory has just been trying to get enough sleep because we're both very tired. So I'm thinking about improve. Imagination, not so much, but meaningful, certainly. Prayer, certainly. Relaxation, yes. Yes, we're at a hotel. We're trying to take advantage of that. My husband was saying how he's been out by the pool. He can't swim, but he's making sure my son gets pool time. One thing at a time, of course. Vacation, well, not so much. But we're doing a lot of E, the encouraging self-talk. So there we go. There's the distress tolerance review. But, the major thing here is we're using the distress tolerance strategies daily. And frankly, that's also an emotional management thing, is that every day you practice so you are ready for the crises. And we're using Lama logic, which is we're really identifying what works and staying with it instead of saying this should work, we should feel better. No, and so I have to admit there's been a lot of spontaneous eating meals out, and part of my contribution has been watching the budget. All righty. Fluffy books, not much, because frankly I've just been driving all week. The most I can say is I started the next book in the Finishing School series on Audible. This is Weskets and Weaponry, or for you Americans, Waistcoats and Weaponry. I was a bit shocked when the British accented reader called it waistcoats. I'm under the impression that British English calls it waistcoats. At any rate, waistcoats and weaponry, and I've been enjoying it. Something I really like, I'm going to jump for it, L'Atelier Yarns on Ventura. L'Atelier, actually, their mothership is Redondo Beach, a place that I can barely afford to visit, let alone buy yarn at. However, they have their Ventura outlet in the wealthy section in Encino. But L'Atelier, it's a great resource for expensive yarns. You can join their yarn club for $99 a year. You get 20% off all sorts of things. They have a club, yada, yada, yada. In other words, they're really working this. They're trying to make it more affordable for those of us who can't just walk in and afford to buy yarn at face value. Or, as I like to think of it, you give them $99 a year and you're basically putting a down payment on all your sweaters for the year. They also have, besides the yarn club, they have a sweater of the month, and they have the Sunday night special, I think it's called, where they do like one special sweater on Sundays. They have a lot of patterns. That's what I'm telling you about. And they will show you a finished object made by them. And they will also tell you the cost in their yarns. And let me tell you, their sweaters aren't cheap. Cheapest yarn they've got is Malabrigo, I think, from what I saw. But it's really very wonderful. They're not kidding. It's luxury yarn. They're not fooling around. They're not selling a lot of merino. But yes, linen, cashmere, cotton blends, Malabrigo for me. L'Atelier, it's a really nice yarny community. The people who were sitting there knitting together when I went in earlier this week were very chummy and friendly. Everybody was friendly towards me. I really liked the environment. If I wanted to make a sweater out of a linen, which I am toying with making summer tops in linens and cotton blends, I know perfectly well I'm going to go to Lisa Souza and buy the linen. However, it is nice to have some place where you can go in and sort of explore the linens. I don't think I could afford to buy them there, but if I build up enough goodwill, I would. What you should know is that if you're in Los Angeles and you're looking for sweatering stuff, this is a great resource. If you want a local yarn shop, this is a great resource. They have a club. They have a good community. They sell online. They're friendly. They're supportive. But they are upscale yarns. Every now and then, we all need a little upscale yarn. I bought a skein of Malabrigo Mecha from them. I realized I should have bought two because Mecha is actually Spanish, Espanol, for single ply. So there you go. If you didn't know that, Mecha, Mechita, the names that they have on the Malabrigos, watch out for that one if you're not a single ply fan. By the way, I'm not. But I bought a single skein of Mecha because I felt like I'd talked to them and they were friendly, and I really wanted to just pitch in. It's an LYS, keep the LYS going. And it's true, this week I finally caved today and I bought another skein, but I didn't buy it there. I just bought it online because in case you're wondering, Mecha is a bulky. All right, put a lid on it. Well, I've been cooking for one all week with a vacuum sealer, and I put in some easy stuff. I put in a recipe for miscellaneous steaks. Now, I have been buying these little round sirloin steaks. I think I got them once at Walmart when I was there, but mostly I use Trader Joe's for meat, particularly beef. And the miscellaneous steaks recipe is in there. I basically will saute a chopped onion in the Instant Pot. Then I will chop the steaks and saute them for about 5 minutes. I just layer the bottom of the pot with it, and I just want them to brown all over. The smell is insane. And then it sounds pretty much like my pulled pork. I will add an acid. So this time I used Coke, but I will also use Diet Coke. I will also use chopped tomatoes for the acid, and I like to use barbecue sauce. This time also I had 3 diced yellow peppers that I used as well because I wanted what the Italians would call a pepper steak. All right, so basically I saute the onion for 3 minutes. I saute the chopped steaks with the onion for about 5 minutes, stirring everything to brown all over. I add the Coke or tomatoes and the barbecue sauce. Then I put it on manual for 60 minutes. I don't care about depressurizing. I'll just let it depressurize on its own. I went down and watered the pony. Then I will basically open it up after it depressurizes enough, and I put in the chopped peppers and the broccoli or any other veg you like. Then you set it to 0 on manual and turn the IP on again. What happens is it just comes up to pressure and then it stops. Why am I doing this? Because I have never been able to cook veggies in the Instant Pot without them turning to mush. So I don't cook them. I let it just pressurize and then depressurize. I have to say, this is great over greens for salad. It really is, and a homemade blue cheese dressing. In the meantime, you say, homemade blue cheese dressing? Yes. This week on my own, what I did was I took a whole bunch of vacuum sealer roll and I just cut lengths of it and sealed one end. So I made bags. And then I just piled them on the counter. And every time I make something for myself, I take the leftovers, I vacuum seal it, and I stick it in the freezer. So that resulted in the miscellaneous steaks, pulled pork, jalapeno poppers, which I'm going to come back to, bone broth, which the dogs have been enjoying, roasted chicken, which I enjoyed. I roasted the chicken in the Instapot, browned it under the broiler, let it cool, and then stripped it. So I have roast chicken hanging out. And then I also made yesterday French garlic chicken. So all of these I ate for dinner at various times or lunch. And then basically I vacuum sealed the rest with my handy stock of ready-made vacuum seal bags and put them in the freezer. So those will be heat and eats later on. It's pretty nice. If you're going to do this, you also can do it with your veggies. Like we went into this crisis with a lot of fresh veg in the fridge. So every day I take some of the fresh veg, I chop it up, and I vacuum seal it because, it delays rotting a little bit and gives us a supply of fresh veggies. So the whole goal here is you take this stuff out of the freezer if you put it in the freezer, you let it defrost all day, and then you just throw it in a pan and cook it or heat it. In some cases, if it's chopped, you don't even have to defrost it. You can let the pan do the work. What is all this good for? Well, among other things, if you eat rice and carbs, you can pour it all over rice and call it good. In my case, baby spring greens. I get bags of that, bring them home, and just heat stuff and pour it over it. I also made homemade blue cheese dressing. I made about a quart of it. And that is a really nice thing to have around if you're keto, because you can just use it as a dip or throw it on everything. Okay, so we've had actually a pretty good week here and put a lid on it. I've just been making foods and sticking them in the freezer. On to the blather. Yeah, still waiting for ASL classes to begin on August 22nd. The Yosemite trip we have canceled. That we probably could pull it off, but frankly, we're working not to go back into any kind of debt, and we're going to be in debt because we're going to have about 11 days so far of hotel by the time we're finished. All right, so there's good news and there's bad news. We decided Yosemite is just too much, but Yosemite, we got a $350 refund from our down payment, so that's helping with the hotel bill. The other great thing, the hotel bill, I'm a member of the frequent flyers for several chains, but the one I rely on is Marriott. Now, Marriott, I'm not that fond of, but they used to be Sheraton. And Sheraton's rewards, the Starwood preferred guest, was a superb program. Marriott, of course, gutted it. However, I had a lot of spare points in that got converted to Marriott points. So essentially, 11 days in a hotel, I just realized we're in one of the cheaper hotels in the chain. And I'm in their lifetime program. I'm a lifetime silver member, pretty close to lifetime gold. And so, I'm just cranking up nights for the lifetime gold membership, which is nice. You get a lot of nice perks from that. But anyway, all these nights in the hotel, despite the cost hasn't been that bad, to be honest. We're in a low end. We're in a Fairfield Inn, in fact. So we're in the low end of the chain. It's pretty much what any decent hotel is going to cost us. But it's getting me extra bonus points in my Bonvoy account. So that's very nice and heading me towards lifetime gold membership. So, every loss has some small gain. Yosemite, don't feel too bad for us. We've got reservations at Bright Angel Lodge for the Grand Canyon in June. So we're not suffering that much, let me tell you. The good news of all of this is the pup date. Queenie and Captain and Blanks, I've been working on their training when I'm at home with them and buying them a lot of treats and having them delivered to the house and playing with them a lot. And it's been pretty good. Queenie hasn't got a clue about housebreaking, but I noticed we haven't had any poop in the house. She might have figured that out, but peeing, she's still kind of lost on that one. So, it's okay. All the rugs have been pulled up. The doors to the bedrooms that have carpeting are closed. And I keep the Angry Orange spray around and spray wherever she pees. And so she knows something's going on, but she's not quite sure what the problem is, so we're working on it. But the great news is that she and Captain are like sisters. They really adore each other. They lie curled up. Now, Captain, I came home one day and Captain was lying very still. Either she was depressed or she had heat exhaustion. Her tongue looked normal. She just wasn't moving, and she was lying up on the hill in the bright sunlight when it was in the high 90s, so that's what made me wonder about heat exhaustion. But again, she wasn't gasping or panting. Her pulse was normal. Her tongue wasn't any bright red or dark black or anything. I don't know what was going on, but she opted to sleep outside that night next to the full water trough. So I figured, all right, let's see what she does. The next morning at 5 a.m., she was thrilled to see me. And she's clinging to me, but she's okay. So meanwhile, she does need the occasional break from Queenie. Queenie is currently sleeping in her crate because she peed on the floor. But that's okay, because I have to go out and pick the boys up and have dinner. We are on a rest day. The surgeons are not seeing my husband today, which is really nice. What about him? Well, let's see. The pressure built. What a week. Let's see what happened since I last spoke to you. He went in to see the doctor Sunday morning as an emergency call, and then Monday. Tuesday, I believe I canceled my patients because we had to be in at 8 a.m. and they said it was going to take time. It took like 3 hours. They did all sorts of horrific stuff to him, including put a gas bubble in his eye, which he had to treat like a level. He had to keep it at a certain point in his eye. He had to keep his head tilted to the side to keep it there. And it was holding his retina in place. His retina had torn. They were lasering it. I mean, how he got through this, I can't imagine. At one point, he said to the doctor, do people occasionally faint when you do this? And the doctor froze and said, are you going to faint? He said, no. And the doctor said, well, to tell you the truth, almost everybody does. You're amazing. And so there's a counter on the machine. He said the laser hit his eye 950 times that day. Oh, on Wednesday, he was able to drive. The doctor was okay as long as he didn't change elevation. So he drove himself down. We were at the hotel. I did not spend the night. I've spent every night up here at the farm making sure everybody is fed and watered and cared for. And on Wednesday, I did see my patients in the hotel room. Thursday, I canceled half my patients. Of the remaining 3, 2 ended up canceling themselves. So I came home, and I sat at home all day and saw one patient, and it was wonderful. It was so wonderful to be back at the farm and make sure everybody was okay. And Thursday, if I hadn't had Thursday, I don't know if I could have made it. Because, of course, I missed the beloved son who was spending most of the time down in Santa Clarita at the hotel, because also that was very convenient for his community program that he was going to all day. On Thursday, my husband was told they're probably going to do surgery tomorrow, and it could be an all-night thing that they were planning the surgery. If worse came to worse, they were going to do it at 6:30 at night in Santa Monica, a long way from us. So I canceled all my patients Friday. Thank goodness I still have sick time and vacation time. I don't have any more sick time, but even so, no regrets. But I still have some vacation time. So we canceled all the patients on Friday. He went in. The doctor said, you have to come in early because we're going to have to get you a bed at the local hospital or in Santa Monica. He goes in. The doctor shows up and goes, wow, your eye really improved overnight. No surgery. We thank you, heaven. No surgery. So we ended up having this really calm Friday because we left the doctor's office after about 2 hours. And it was just very peaceful. We went out to dinner. We were just very quiet together, just kind of being together. And my son, meanwhile, had not been able to go to his program, and that was the last day his program was operating for the summer. So now we have him full-time. And Saturday, we had to go to the doctor again. They're just looking at him every day. This may go on for another week. But they were really happy, and they said, okay, you don't need to be seen tomorrow, Sunday. So, meanwhile, I come home to the farm, and I'm tired and stressed. So what do? I house clean. Why? Because activities is the first letter of the ACCEPT acronyms for distress tolerance. That I have to admit, I looked at the house, said, wow, this place looks awful. And I've just been randomly puttering and picking up. I haven't really done a lot of dedicated stuff. But it's really been good to do it. Now, almost every morning I have to clean the tray from Queenie's crate because she's peeing on one end of the crate and then sleeping in the other. But now it seems to be she can be dry some days, but it seems to be she wakes up, and if I haven't gotten there in time, I hear whoa, 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 and that's her peeing and saying, please get me out of here. Well, she's getting the idea. But at any rate, so I clean the tray, I go down and make sure the animals, the pony and the alpaca, have water. And of course, Friday, just to make it really special, something bit me in the foot. My foot swelled up. It was awful. In the middle of the night, I woke up with my foot on fire and also a big rash growing on the thigh on that leg. So in the middle of the night, I stuck my foot in a bucket of water, realizing that something's on my skin. And that worked. That after an hour of that, I went to bed and passed out. I also took a lot of antihistamine. And really, the antihistamine has been working. We think it was a fire ant. I've never had the experience before, and I don't recommend it, let me tell you. But it's amazing because here on Sunday, it's still swollen, it's still burning, but antihistamine is helping a lot. And also, I stopped wearing sandals, and I'm wearing white cotton running socks as we speak, and that seems to be helping it, actually. There's a little friction, but on the whole, I'm managing pretty well. So, nothing like getting kicked when you're down, but that's the least of our problems this week. It's just that Friday night was a bit of a nightmare, so Saturday I was exhausted all day when I should have been okay, but, like I said, life is like that. On our calendar, we are expecting to go to Stitches SoCal. I expect to be there on Sunday, which I believe is the 13th. I will probably spend Sunday night there and drive back Monday morning, which I will not be going in the direction of traffic jams. So it should be a nice drive back. But hopefully I will be there Sunday morning, I hope, because I have patients on Saturday. Okay, Grand Canyon, we're looking forward to that in June of 23. And I am planning to go to Sunnybank in August of 23 if all works out. Minerva gets the last word. Minerva would like you to know that cats are just as good at being chums and steady-hearted friends as dogs are. So there is a picture of Minerva perching on my right knee. Yesterday, she knew I'd come home tired and was wiped out, and she just came and sat in my lap and purred. And then I leaned over and took a picture of her face because I knew she was doing love eyes. So there's a picture of her with her eyes partly closed doing the love eyes. Cats do not get the credit they deserve for being companions. I have to tell you, I can't imagine this whole thing without Minerva. And I say that with real meaning because, of course, we almost lost her in February when, dingbat that she was, she ate all sorts of things she shouldn't eat, like string, yarn, needles off the artificial Christmas tree. Yeah. So I am deeply grateful that Minerva has survived and is still with us. It's just wonderful that she's still here. Every time I look at her, I think we could have lost her in February. And then coupled with 2 eye surgeries for my husband in March and February, the death of Eleanor in April, the struggle to get Queenie here, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that we didn't give up on Minerva and she's still here with us. She's now 4 years old. She has not shown any string-eating propensities in a few weeks. I don't know why. She just seems to have lost interest. And it is only fair to tell you that cats are wonderful, wonderful companions. She was angry. First night I came home, she cuddled with me. The second night, she was angry and didn't want to come anywhere near me. Every night since, she has been waking me up in the pre-dawn hours to bump her head into mine and to purr and to tuck her head under my chin or to bathe my face. That she's clearly trying to tell me that she loves me and it's all okay. So today she got a cleaned out litter box as a reward. Actually, I skip it out every day. But today I did the total clean on it because today was clean all the floors while the boys are away. And meanwhile, just roam the house trying to make things better. And in the middle of it, there's this very contented Minerva talking to me and trying to let me know that she loves me and she misses me. And she would like equal time with the dogs as a very steady and reliable friend. So I think that's about it. I hope this wasn't too incoherent because I am really, really tired, even though I slept about 9 hours last night. And I have to go down and have dinner with the boys, which is another 2 hours of driving. But it is so nice just to not be worried about getting him to the doctor. And we have another doctor's visit tomorrow. There is an outside chance that the doctors will declare him okay tomorrow and allow him to come home. I have bought the keto ice cream just in case. If they don't come home tomorrow, I'll probably be eating it myself. Not all of it. There's 2 pints in there, but still. So I am gradually saying, look, we're going to have French garlic chicken ready to go because my husband loves it. And keto ice cream, we are going to party like it's 1999. Wow, does that Joke date me. At any rate, we're going to party hard if I can bring the beloved boys home tomorrow. They actually have the hotel room until Tuesday, and so that would be perfect because I probably will lose that last night. I have to pay for it anyway. I don't care. I just want everybody to come home. So everybody say a little prayer, cross your fingers, do the things you do. In the meantime, let's not forget to take care of ourselves. Monkeypox, COVID, oy vey, what a situation we are in. But hey, I was just looking at a meme saying it's been a really great week for Joe Biden and him having COVID. But, been some good stuff going through too. So it's been, it hasn't been the most disastrous of weeks. Maybe things are looking up a little. Nonetheless, wash your hands, wear your mask, keep the 6-foot distance. Remember, there are other things out there, flu, colds, monkeypox, but most of all, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I look forward to talking to you soon when things have returned to more of a normal up here on the ranch. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And we have a nice addendum here. It is Monday, August 8th, and the beloved has been cleared to come back to the farm. So we are at last all home together, and the very strange 9 days have drawn to a close. Party time on the ranch. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate all the good wishes and prayers. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.